From the early 1900s through the Adolph Rupp era, Kentucky basketball has been a symbol of excellence and dominance in college basketball.
Kentucky basketball for me is a really deep love. It's something that is a passion, it's a hobby, it brings me up if I've had a bad day. It can take me down if I've had a good day, if things aren't going the way I think they should. It's just something that is a really core part of my life, and I would even go so far as to say it's a really core part of my identity. And certainly our rich tradition is a key part of the attraction for me of Kentucky basketball. I love knowing that my grandfathers loved the team. I love knowing the stories about when my uncles were driven to Memorial Coliseum for the first time from Eastern Kentucky to see the Cats play live. I love the stories about when they started to be broadcast on television and family could watch, family who didn't live in Lexington, but they'd turn the volume down so they could still listen to Kaywood Ledford's call of the game on the radio. That's a part of my family history. It's a part of who I am.
In 1910, E.R. Sweetland signed on as UK's Director of Athletics. From that beginning came a long history of success, piloted by Rupp, regarded by many as one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time.
It has grown into magnificent magnitude as far as the interest level, and it started with those early coaches, the success they had, and the pride that it gave the people of the state of Kentucky. So whether it was Sweetland or moving all the way through Coach Rupp and his championships, the more you win, the more fans like to jump on that bandwagon. So that really kind of started the success and the tradition of Kentucky basketball.
The modern era, or the semi-modern era of Kentucky basketball, started with Adolph Rupp. When Adolph Rupp came in 1930, he took it to another level. Many have said that Rupp didn't invent basketball, but he perfected it.
Coach Rupp's, when he had all those championship teams, it kind of transformed in the fact that no one had ever done that before. They won the national championship in 48 and 49, also won the gold medal that summer, which is unheard of, one team to do all those things. So to have that much success, followed back in 51 and right on through, it kind of set the standard for what a championship program and a great basketball tradition program is.
When you win, you get notoriety, and from there, a lot of things spring.
The building of Rupp Arena and naming it after him was obviously a testament to his success and the part he played in Kentucky basketball. I'm sure a lot of people thought, well, when they built the Coliseum on campus, they thought, oh, that's way too big, it's never going to be filled. But they did. They outgrew it, and they built Rupp Arena, and a lot of people thought, oh, 24,000 seats, there's no way, but every game it's full.
Wow. It was so big. And 11,000, we filled it every game at the Memorial. But that place was a monster.
I brought a team. We just won the Alaska Shootout, and we flew back to Cincinnati and then came down here to play. And I walked into Rupp Arena, and I looked around, and I went, what? This is nuts.
The Rupp legacy would be passed to former Wildcat player and then assistant coach Joe B. Hall.
The transition of my taking over for Coach Rupp is to quote a local coach who said that he wouldn't want to be the coach that followed Adolph Rupp. He'd want to be the coach that followed the coach that followed Adolph Rupp.
With senior Jack Givens and Purdue transfer point guard Kyle Macy, they would go on to win the 1978 title.
Our team in 77 was comparable favorably to the team in 78. But when Kyle came in, Larry graduated. Well, Kyle gave a different dimension to the team. He was a perfect point guard to work with Roby Phillips, Givens and Lee and Claytor.
Coach Hall was a very disciplined coach, and I think that was something that I really was looking for, especially after the experience I had at Purdue my freshman year. So you knew exactly what he expected of you, and he expected 100% all the time. Very disciplined, very organized, and knew the tradition of Kentucky basketball and took a lot of pride in upholding that tradition.
After Coach Hall's tenure, the Cats hit a dark period, which led to probation under Coach Eddie Sutton.
At that time, not only was that pride not there anymore, but there was scandal, and there was that whole Sports Illustrated cover of Kentucky shame. And I mean, this was This was an entity that was just looking for some hope.
Athletic Director C.M. Newton would deliver the suave and charismatic Rick Pitino.
I remember when Coach Pitino was announced as our new men's basketball coach, I was elated. I thought it was an electrifying hire. He brought a lot of youth and vigor, a lot of intensity and charisma. He obviously was known for a very up-tempo style of play, and he really made an impression on what I expect to see when I watch a Kentucky basketball game.
What Rick Pitino brought back to the program after 1989, after we went on probation, was a breath of fresh air.
We were out of the conversation for the national championship. Rick put us back in the conversation for the national championship.
Nowadays, you see a lot of people playing the fast break style of basketball, up-tempo style, shooting a lot of threes, running and gunning. Well, Rick Pitino brought that to Kentucky. And when he started to recruit players like Jamal Mashburn, Tony Delk, Derek Anderson, Walter McCarty, Wayne Turner, Nazi Muhammad, Antoine Walker, all of these guys came in wanting to play that style of basketball.
The creation of the Untouchables was born.
Tony Delk was a guy who was always kind of Mr. Cool. You couldn't tell whether Tony had made 10 in a row or whether he'd missed 10 in a row. It was always kind of the same demeanor, and you wouldn't want to play poker with the guy because you couldn't tell what he was going to do, but you knew that when it counted, he was going to have the hand he needed. Walter McCarty, he was like the 10,000 calorie a day guy before Michael Phelps was. They were trying to put weight on him and they couldn't. But you double team somebody, you try to take him away on a set play, all of a sudden Walt's open and he's got the ability to either take it to the rim or hit a big shot from the outside. Mark Pope, he was one of those pieces that you need. He wasn't going to be the lead dog, but he was going to be a dog that you could count on, you know, that was going to get the dirty work done, that if you needed somebody to get physical inside, and yet he could hit the outside shot as well. He was really crucial. He was the perfect complementary player. Derek Anderson was just, I mean, Mr. Cool. To me, he was kind of the heart and soul of this basketball team. But D knew what this team had. He was a killer. I mean, he had that big smile on his face. Everybody thought, what a nice guy. But when it came down to time and you needed a bucket, he was an absolute killer. Didn't make any difference whether it was a jump shot, whether he would blow by the toughest defender on another team and just absolutely throw it down in somebody's face, or kick it out to somebody who could make a big jump shot. He was the straw that stirred that drink. Antoine Walker. When Antoine Walker came here, everybody said, that guy's a head case. You ever seen some of the stuff he's pulled in high school? And he came here, he was really kind of a model citizen, but then on the court, he was around so many great players. He kept getting his chance, and then once they got into that just amazing tournament run where they just blistered everybody, you know, he kind of blossomed right before our eyes. Jeff Shepard, Peachtree City, Georgia. He was the guy that fit in here at Green Acres. He was kind of Richie light. Everybody liked Jeff. He sounded like everybody else around here. And a guy just worked his tail off, you know, and he really had to work because he wasn't blessed with the ability that some of the guys on this team had. But he had incredible work ethic, and he could jump out the gym, and one thing he could do is he could really knock down a jump shot. Ron Mercer, if you did a 5-minute documentary on Ron Mercer, you'd probably have about 30 seconds worth of talk from Ron Mercer. He was the quietest guy here, you know, just kind of went about his business. Wasn't surly or anything, but he was just kind of the silent assassin. You know, he'd be in a game and people would be making wild dunks and fast breaks and everything, and then all of a sudden things would start getting bunched up, teams would go zone on him, and then all of a sudden you'd see Mercer, you know, he'd make a couple jump shots and he'd back out and he'd make a three, and then you'd see him get an offensive rebound, and you'd look up at the end of the game and you'd see the stat line and you'd say, oh my gosh. Wayne Turner. There wasn't anybody, there was not a single defender that this team played that could dictate which way Wayne Turner went. When Wayne Turner wanted to go left and he wanted to get it to the elbow, he got it to the elbow. And when he wanted to penetrate and get into the paint and kick it out for a three, he did that as well. And the thing about Wayne, he was another one of these guys, kind of a poker face guy. He played absolutely as hard on the defensive end of the floor as he did on the offensive end. Anthony Epps, down from Marion County. quarterback in high school, was very much a quarterback during his time on the court as well. But Anthony Epps was one of those guys that in the biggest game, against the toughest opponent, no matter an individual or a team, you could bring him in and count on him giving you solid minutes. And the thing that coaches look at is when you made those substitutions, what was the margin? And then what was the margin when you got those starters back in? When Anthony Epps came on the floor, it never went backwards. Allen Edwards, a guy that could scrap inside, a guy that would go out and you know, you don't have a lot of footage of him making big shots. But if you had the ISO cam like they do in some places, you'd have shots of him making a big screen or diving for a loose ball or tapping a ball and keeping it alive or sliding over to the baseline. And maybe he doesn't get a block, but he keeps somebody from getting an uncontested layup. An incredibly unselfish player. Nazr Mohammed was the winner of The Biggest Loser before there was The Biggest Loser. I mean, he came here and he was just a puffy kid, you know, from Chicago. But Nazr made that transformation. He had ability. I mean, for a big guy, he could handle the ball, he could shoot, he could use both hands. But it was that whole physical transformation that allowed this team to not only make a championship run, but for Naz to make a career for himself as well.
Completing the roster were sophomore Cameron Mills, a former walk-on who would earn a scholarship with consistent play. Freshman Oliver Simmons. Walk-on Jason Lathern. And redshirt junior, Jarrett Prickett. Not only was this team receiving national attention as the best team in the land, it got an early start in showing just how good they really would be.
Me, Jamal Mashburn, Rex Chapman, two other great players that play here in Kentucky who were playing in the NBA at that time. And we came back and we played summer ball against these guys, and they were incredible. They didn't back down. They were eager to learn, and they were eager to play against, you know, great competition to get better.
The preseason pickup games were they were unbelievable. Actually, I think, and I know all the guys can kind of attest to this. I mean, they were better than games. Guys, you know, got back to their roots, to their neighborhood. You know, it was kind of like street ball. It was a lot of shit talking.
They was probably the best pickup games I've ever played in. You better be on your A game, because when you're not, this other guy here is right beside you getting ready to take your spot.
If you missed a shot, you lost that game.
Pickup games was intense, but just because that was at a time where a lot of guys came back. I mean, you had Jamal Mashburn came back to play pickup. You had Rex Chapman there to play pickup. You had Kenny Walker coming to play pickup. So, you know, you had some guys who were in the league who were dominating the league come back to play pickup. So if you wasn't out there battling, holding your own, you might not get picked up for the next game. You might have to sit for a while, whether you was on the team or not. It was about the best players getting on the court playing.
Midnight Madness is the first official practice, but it's usually more of a stage of entertainment for the fans and their first official look at the team. This year, however, there seemed to be an extra sense of excitement in the air.
Midnight Madness is always crazy in a sense because you got people starting to wait outside a month in advance just to make sure they get inside of the building. So while you're walking to class every day, you're seeing the line get longer and longer.
Seeing all the tents outside and, you know, not really knowing, you know, they don't do this, you know, everywhere, at every college in the country.
I mean, you just see all the blue and white. You see fans sitting around the building. We had one guy was out there over a month to be the first person at our Midnight Madness.
The fans are very in tune to what the players are doing and how the team is doing. So Midnight Madness was almost a regular, normal day for us because fans would always come around all the time, even before it.
You know, going into Midnight Madness that night, I mean, it was crazy. I don't think I've ever had a practice where, you know, it was over 8,000 people, you know, just watching us.
Some guys did some, you know, variety of different dunks just to let the crowd see, you know, what type of athletes we were. But, you know, it was a lot of fun.
After all the glitz, glamour, and hype of Midnight Madness, the real boot camp of practice was just about to begin.
Oh, practice was hard. Practice was intense every day.
It probably had to be like, you know, World War III. You know?
It was a friggin' all-out war.
I would almost call it more than war. It might have been like Armageddon or something.
It was going to be hell. We knew that it was going to be a battle, going to be some yelling, some threatening to send guys home.
I think we had 10 to 12 guys on that team that were the man. If you messed up one day in practice, I could possibly take your starting position, you know, and then you'd have to come and earn it back.
The thing about Coach Pitino's practices were that he always rewarded the guy who worked harder. For Pitino, he drilled in us that you're not going to play if you don't come and practice hard. So every day, if you didn't come to practice, you know, and had your mindset to play hard, you know, somebody was going to pretty much do you in. And if you're a starter, you know, you might not be starting that next game if this guy got the best of you in this practice.
At times it got a little testy because everybody wanted to play, everybody wanted to fight for minutes.
A lot of, you know, personal vendettas taken out in practice. You know what I mean? Guys' pride was laying on the line. Guys didn't want to let certain individuals score on them.
When you talk about the talent of the team, I still practiced with the team that year, and you had two guys literally who couldn't get in practice that were NBA first-round picks. Myself and Nazir Muhammad, literally, we couldn't get into practice. They created a JV team so that we could get some playing time, so down the road we would be better.
I mean, guys who were starting wanted to stay out there the whole practice. Me and Scott, a lot of times on the side, you know, just twiddling our thumbs, hoping to get out there and practice.
You know, there was no solidity in the lineup. There, you know, you didn't know who was going to get the playing time, and there wasn't a lot of playing time to go around for as much talent that was on that team.
In my freshman year, I mean, I probably passed out trying to get through conditioning. I had a roommate, and Alan don't want to admit this, Alan couldn't even make it through practice. He slept his way through college. I never seen nobody sleep his way through college just from Coach Pitino practice with that hard. He was getting sleep early for the next day of practice.
I slept a lot. They used to call me Sleepy. Coming into Kentucky and playing for Coach Pitino, I mean, it was like another level. And then you're playing against guys that are physically more stronger than you and again, more talented than you are. So to me, when we were going through practices, I mean, I tried to put so much effort into the practice that after practice, I had to take advantage of me getting ready for the next day of practice, whether it's going to sleep early or if I had a break in between class. My social life was out the window. I mean, I went back to my room and got my nap because, I mean, it was just, that's just the way it was. And for me to keep up, I felt like I had to get my energy because you can't go into one of his practices and not be ready.
If you walked through the lodge at about 1 o'clock, everybody set up their schedule to go to sleep. Everybody used to take naps before practice. We definitely had to be prepared mentally and physically for it.
I think to a player, everybody would agree that when the game day came up, you felt like physically for your body, it was going to be a day off. It was going to be a day to recuperate because you're going to play 30 minutes as hard as you possibly could. Whereas in practice, you have individual for 45 minutes, then you have a 2.5-hour practice. You're going as hard as you can against more talented players. So, you know, game day was a day to celebrate and almost a day for your body to recover a little bit.
Games were easy. I mean, once we got to games, I mean, games were like a cakewalk.
Rick Pitino said during UK's annual media day, his repeated concern about team chemistry now were completely out of his mind. However, sophomore Antoine Walker wasn't so sure the issue was resolved.
I thought we had too much talent. You know, I thought that, the minutes wasn't going to get split equally, and I just thought that we was going to have problems in that area. You know, we're going to have so many guys unhappy, so I really was concerned about that part. But also, I knew that, you know, we can blend together, we can have something special.
I just remember people told us there weren't enough basketballs for this team. You know, you guys wouldn't be able to play together. There's too many superstars.
I remember in the preseason, people talking about our team a lot and saying this is a great team, but the downfall is going to be that the guys aren't going to pass the ball, that guys are going to be selfish. There's too many good players on the team for the team to work together.
I think we were kind of insulted by that because we all liked playing with each other, and we didn't mind sharing the basketball. And our whole goal was just to win.
Once fall hits in the state of Kentucky, the weather becomes cooler, but the basketball heat reaches a fever pitch. The majority of the preseason publications had the University of Kentucky ranked #1. However, Street and Smith magazine discovered it alarmed the Bluegrass by ranking Kentucky #2.
I was just disgusted. I was like, who do they think they are, you know? Like, as a Kentucky fan, I expected us to be preseason #1 in every poll.
Coming into that preseason, we were already expected to win a national championship.
We knew we had to win, and we couldn't have any losses because, you know, we were ranked #1. Everyone expected us to win it all. So our mentality was, you know what, we got to go play.
After beating each other up all preseason, the Cats were ready to take on fresh meat.
The first game of the season was big because it was, I mean, obviously we was ranked #1, and you know, there was a lot of pressure on us, but it was exciting. I mean, I think we were surprised. Nobody knew how it was going to go.
I was nervous. I think we had huge expectations, and I knew if we lost the game, Coach Pitino was going to kill us.
When you're going against each other on a daily basis and you're putting in your own offense, you tend defensively to know what's going on, so you kind of cheat the plays. And I think we were a very well prepared basketball club going into that game. And they were a pretty good team. They had a few pros on that team as well.
The way we beat Maryland was purely talent. We had 10, 11 guys that outwilled them with talent, and that's the reason we beat Maryland.
And that was a big game for us.
I mean, so it was kind of hard. I only played like, 20, 22 minutes, so I was upset after that game. So we just had mixed feelings after that game. We won, but it still was a lot of questions on how things were going to go.
Who was the scorers? Who was the defenders? Who were the rebounders? Things like that. Who we needed to get the ball to, at the end of the shot clock. Things like that, I think, came out.
There was little time for celebration over the Maryland victory, as #5 ranked UMass and All-American center Marcus Camby awaits the Wildcats.
That first game against UMass, you got to give Coach Calipari and UMass a lot of credit. They had a great team led by, obviously, Marcus Camby, who went on to have and is still having a great career in the NBA. And they had a perfect game plan to go against Kentucky, and it's kind of similar in styles and similar in personalities between the two coaches.
I knew how Rick Pitino was as a coach. And so I let it out in the media, in my radio and TV coaches show, that we were going to play a box and 1, triangle and 2, which I knew then he'd make his assistants go and look for every piece of tape that I've ever coached in. Well, truth be told, I've never played a box and 1 or triangle and 2. Didn't know if I had messed them up a little bit prior to the game until Dickie V came up and said, adding a warm-up line, are you going to play a box and 1? I said, we got him.
The game against UMass, I just felt like, those guys, they had all of them had played together the year before. They kind of knew what their role already was.
It takes a little time, I think, to build chemistry and character and define the roles of the players on the team. Unfortunately, we had to play UMass early in the season, and they exposed us.
Good loss. When you lose to good people, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you go out there and play and you play hard early in the season and you get beat, all you're doing is setting a bar, a benchmark for you as a player, you as a team, and you as a coach to know what you have to achieve, how you have to get better. If you play a bunch of nobodies, and you never really know how, what you have to work on.
It really kind of opened up our eyes. Losses like that, there's that debate, are losses ever good for a team? And I would say the 96 Kentucky basketball program was proof that they are, because that early loss, because what happens is your coaches are always yelling and teaching and coaching you in practice, and the things that they're saying, until it all culminates in a loss, sometimes you don't ever internalize them, you don't ever hear them. And all of a sudden, everything Coach Pitino had been saying, everything Coach O'Brien had been saying, Coach Bennett had been saying, Coach Brooks had been saying all year, or up until that point in the season, which was pretty early on, oh, they're right. We're not as good as we think we are.
I remember after the UMass game, coming into the locker room with a pretty quiet locker room, and I remember personally feeling like we just kind of got punched in the mouth, kind of thinking, all right, this is going to be a grind, and we got to really refocus, and we got to, we have to make some adjustments.
Kentucky was ready to address the player rotation.
We was experimenting with Tony Delk at the point guard spot, which is where it wasn't his strength, and we discovered that after that game.
It was time for the coaching staff and the players to sit down and get it right. Who's going to play, who's not going to play, because we had 12, 13 guys that can win anywhere else in the country and basically start it.
I realized that Tony Delk at that point was not a point guard, and that was the key to our season. When I moved Anthony Epps into the starting spot, he now made everybody else better, offensively as well as defensively, and it made Tony a much better basketball player.
Felt like I brought a calmness to the team because I knew where everybody's supposed to be on any given play, and I was a true point guard. You know, we had guys as two guards that he tried to make into point guards, but I was a true point guard, and that's been something that I've been doing my whole life.
I think it was a good move. I think at the time coach was really trying to get me into the NBA, but after we lost that second game against UMass, he was like, hey, I got some good news and bad news. The good news is you're going to stay in the starting lineup. The bad news is you're not going to be a point guard. So it really didn't hurt because I knew we had such a good team that a lot of our players were interchangeable, and that was the great thing about playing and having 4 or 5 different guards, that anybody and everybody could bring the ball down the court. But at that point in time, we made that change. I just thought we just got even better.
We knew we were the better team, and we played horrible. We didn't have our rotations down yet. We were still figuring things out. I think that loss really woke us up and said, hey, man, we got a special team here. If we don't take advantage of us playing together and enjoying this, we're just going to be like every other team.
I think that loss put us in a position where we knew that we could be beat at any time.
You know, I remember feeling like, okay, we gotta really get down to work now. Like, it's time. All that preseason, that trip, all that stuff is over, and now this is the real deal. And we cannot have another slip up like this.
Everybody's making such a big deal out of our first and second unit. Tonight we got beat by 5. I know what we have from practice each day. It's a good, hard-working team, but no way is it a great basketball team. I see it each day. But by the end of the year, look out.
I just hope that a game like this, the people in Kentucky don't go nuts and lose their minds like they always do and think everything's over, the world's coming to an end.
And it takes a lot longer to mesh 10, 11 players than it does 5, 6, or 7.
Kentucky's next challenge came against Coach Bob Knight and the Indiana Hoosiers. Wisconsin Green Bay showed grit. Was way overmatched and displayed little to no challenge. UK made its debut against the Yellow Jackets and freshman All-American Stephon Marbury.
Georgia Tech came to Rupp when we was all starting to figure it out. So for us, it was a good game because we played against a good team. Of course, Stephon Marbury was on that team. Not only Wayne Turner get to go at Stephon Marbury, some of the other guys just got to actually finally play. We was playing well, so it was like 11 or 12 of us got in the game. So watching Walter get a 360 dunk, you know, watching Wayne go coast to coast on Stephon, that was fun for us because we were excited to see guys actually play well.
I couldn't wait to play against Stephon because when we played in the Magic Roundball Classic, used to be the type of dandy, Dick Vitale was at the banquet and I made a comment to him. I said, make sure, you know, you're doing the Georgia Tech game when I play against Stephon. And he made a comment saying, well, you know, I know Stephon's gonna be playing, but I don't know about you. He got me on that one, so, you know, that game, that whole game, I was just, man, I just couldn't wait to just at least guard him. And I ended up getting player of the game that game.
And the highlights were just unlimited. You know, I mean, we just made so many plays, steals, dunks, the press was working. Everything just clicked that night.
The game was full of highlights and high-flying dunks, but one particular play stands out and would be a stamp on how the rest of the regular season would go.
The ball got tipped to me some kind of way.
Derek got it. He stole the ball. He's on the fast break. And we all know Derek's athletic, so we think, okay, it's going to be a dunk.
I just took off running. I always know Walt's running for a dunk, so I know he's coming, or somebody, but I know he's coming.
And then all of a sudden, he throws it off the backboard.
My thing was, okay, if he keeps running and I keep seeing him running while I'm dribbling, I'm just going to throw out the glass and give it enough time to get it.
Yeah, I'm thinking, what's Derek, what's he doing?
It actually took a lot of balls from him to actually do that. Playing for Coach P,
Coach was used to me doing stuff like that.
And then here comes Walt.
And I seen him stretch out and just,
Walt kind of stretched out on it too.
He dunks it in, and the place is going bananas. I don't think people ever seen a play like that before.
You know, Derek was the only one pretty much on the team that would make, you know, real fancy plays and can get away with it with coaching.
And, you know, we had got to the point where the game was out of reach, you know, so we were having a little fun, and it gave our fans, you know, something to enjoy as well.
I feel like that play right there really showed fans and analysts, whoever was watching that game, how unselfish a team we was.
It just was a turning point for us as far as being the dominant team that we wound up becoming.
We finally beat a good team, you know, Georgia Tech on our home floor on national television. They kind of just made us take off from there. And we knew we didn't have to lose no more.
As the Cats would find their stride, the next unfortunate opponent would come from 50 miles up the road in OVC's Morehead State. Displaying their best effort, Morehead was way out of their league and completely overmatched with the Wildcats' pressure D and depth, as they managed 32 points for the entire game. Facing the Cats next would be a couple of familiar faces, former Patino players Billy Donovan, John Pelfrey, and the Marshall Thundering Herd, led by the electrifying Jason Williams. One game that's always a must-win for any UK team is against state rival and nemesis, the Louisville Cardinals, and Hall of Famer Denny Crum.
The Louisville game, I mean, obviously that's something you hear about throughout the season, and then that week leading up into it, you know, the whole state just intensifies getting ready for the game. Being a kid from Florida, I truly didn't understand it until you're actually at the game, going into the game, and you walk into whether it's Rupp Arena or Freedom Hall, to where one side of it is all red and one side of it is all blue. And when one team does a great play, you know, red is silent and blue is just going crazy, and then vice versa. You know, that's just an experience in itself. And if you hear people talk about just the matchup anyway, you know, Kentucky's always #1. Louisville's this other team that's in the state. You know what I mean? But Louisville always had talent as well.
The rivalry itself motivates everybody. And I think that's what our teammates found out. The young guys found out early. They realized that, hey, this game is for real. Like, we can't worry about nobody else who's coming or who we already play. We got to make sure we beat this team.
But being in the atmosphere, I did understand that. Well, I learned quickly that, you know, it was a really important game.
depth took a toll on them. They got fatigued. They started missing shots.
You know, I don't have to build up Denny Crum. He's a Hall of Fame coach, but they're playing excellent basketball right now without a bench.
I thought they played their hearts out. We ran out of gas. Their depth took its toll, and their athleticism, I think, did. They dominated.
The Wildcats would win the ECAC tournament in dazzling fashion with wins over Ryder and Iona. Few teams have players of so many different backgrounds that are able to find things in common. What made this UK team unique was the way they were able to bond together off the court.
Every Friday night, we all went bowling. I mean, we met out in the parking lot in front of the lodge. You know, everybody had to get their little drama over with their girlfriends about why we going bowling. We see each other all the time. Got through that drama, and then we all went bowling. So that was something that just kept us together.
We started doing things together that, you know, that brought us that much closer.
It was tradition that everybody go bowling on Friday night as a team, and it was fun. I mean, I got pretty good at it. I mean, for college, I mean, bowling 160s, 170s was, you know, that was pretty good. So we had got real competitive about it and started really looking forward to it. It was just one of the pastimes we did to kind of make us more bonded as a team.
You thought we was playing pickup because it'd be a whole lot of trash talk. I know Antoine thought he was the best bowler ever. Jeff Shepard was pretty good at bowling. Even Coach did a show, you know, of us bowling. That's how competitive it got.
The coaching staff came over, and we got on a bowling kick for some reason. We got real competitive as a team as to who was the best bowler on the team.
Give me one strike one time. One. I cannot get a strike.
Bowling got real competitive, and you know what? It's just like anything else. We played cards, we used to play spades, got competitive.
You know, I think that's what really started our domination as a team.
We did everything together, you know, and I think there's teams that maybe every now and then they'll go do things together, but we did everything together. If you went, you know, to a football game, we went together. We went bowling, everybody went. You go to the movies, everybody went. We played cards in the lodge together, and, you know, pool against each other, ping pong against each other. Everything we did was like we were a big family that went around and did everything together.
When one person went, we all try to go together.
There's all kinds of stories, like Shep and I went sledding at midnight and he sprains his ankle and he doesn't get in trouble and I do.
But we always teamed up, you know, and I think that built the unity that we had, and as we was going and striving to be the best team in the country, was that we all stayed together.
I remember as a whole team we went to see the movie Dumb and Dumber, you know, and as a result, Scott Padgett got a nickname.
He got the nickname Christmas Lloyd. I mean, it stuck to him through the whole season.
We did everything together. I mean, we would eat together. We would do not only just practice and plan, but we would always do team functions together. We'd always hang out together. It was never really one or two guys all the time.
And it sounds so little and trivial, but it's not. I mean, the closer you are off the court, the closer you're going to be on the court. Because as great as we were, we still had close games. You know, it's kind of what helped us edge out those opponents.
The times when we were in the locker room, the times when we were on the road, the times when we were wrestling that nobody knows about.
Yeah, we had a little group push pack, you know what I mean? So we had our little group in wrestling, but we kind of went with who was more it's kind of like freshmen, sophomores, kind of the guys who came in together was on the same team. So I want to say it was me, Nas, Allen was kind of on the same team, and then you had the older guys, Tony, Walt, Derek, guys that was a little older. They was they was one team, but that was something we used to do. See if you can catch somebody off guard. We used to throw each other in in the laundry baskets and everything.
Pushback. Twan actually came up with the name.
That's a lie. Antoine did not form Pushback. I brung Pushback because it was back home with me in Chicago with a group of friends back in Chicago.
There were battles, even in practice and even on the road. I don't know if anybody has said it, but I think we were in Minnesota in the NCAA tournament, and we had like a WWF wrestling match.
And we used to have these little mini battle royals, you know, on the road, just kind of wrestling and getting at it a couple of times. It got kind of scary a couple of times. Guys almost got, you know, a little tweaked in the battles, but it was all in fun.
But we were in a room wrestling. You know, and I think back now, that's so like reckless when you think about it, but we were having fun and we were kids. And I think Anthony actually got his neck messed up because he came down to breakfast the next day and he couldn't turn, either way, with a full turn.
The biggest thing was trying to get Nas. See, everybody don't remember Nas. He came to school like 350, 360. So to get Nas down was tough.
Nas was heavy, and they kind of went down the line, freshman to freshman to freshman. The little ritual of putting guys in the basket, and again, Nas was like 6'10", maybe 290. So that wasn't an easy task.
They tried, but I refused to let them get me in the laundry basket. That's something they did, got most freshmen. They actually they tried to get Oliver Simmons. He'd wind up just hopping in it on his own.
We hung out all the time, but like on the court, that was our playground.
And if one person scored 30 and the other scored 2, we were fine with that. Because we were laser focused on winning games and winning championships, and then the individual glory came for us later.
As the SEC regular season began, Coach Pitino knew it was time to prepare the troops for what is considered the heart of the season. With the Cats on a roll, expectations were high, and the possibility of running the table loomed. No team had finished the SEC undefeated in over 40 years. And many would wonder if the players would have this on their mind. South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Tennessee would be the first in line. Baton Rouge would be witness to one of the most impressive displays of total domination ever on a Dale Brown-coached LSU team.
Kentucky with a steal, back down the floor. Here's Walker, and he's got 4 in a row. As LSU could not get the ball inside, and here is Ford. He throws it away again. Turner, far side jump shot is put up, and it is in, and that is 6 straight for Walker, and the Tigers can't get it down the floor.
The LSU game probably got me drafted. That was like unbelievable. That was one of those games, man, I felt bad for Randy Livingston. He just come back off his knee injury and had to play against our press, but I think that game kind of showed our talent. I mean, we kind of hit them. I mean, granted, I think I scored like 28 in the first half, but we hit them with everybody got involved. I think we kind of showed how deep we really was that game, and that was just one of those fun games.
Rebounding is McCarty. Back out to, that is McCarty for 3 from the point. It's good. Sack kicks into the corner. 3-point shot far side is awfully iron. Rebound McCarty, put back, slam! Ford, that is Spencer inbounds to Livingston. Double team, back to Deuce Ford. Back to Spencer. Still in the backcourt. Dribbles a couple of times and lost it again. Spencer is, here's Walker, and he slam dunks it again. Walker has gotten 10 points off of LSU turnovers, and it is 19-7 Kentucky, and the Tigers can't get the ball into the front court. Delk at the top of the key, feeds it back at long range McCarty. Far side to Turner up underneath, and the layup is good. Feeds it away to Spencer at the top of the key. The lob to Rubchenko underneath, pump fake. He goes up, has it stripped loose, and Kentucky takes it away. Back down the floor, Delk drives, passes it off, baseline drive, layup is good by Anderson. It is 25-8 Kentucky. Bounce pass near side is to Muhammad, who's in the ball game, and I think Kentucky's played everybody. Shepard at the point. Back near side, Delk for 3. It's up, counted. 4 seconds left in the first half. 2, 1. He tries a 3 and hit it. Nothing but net. At the buzzer, Shepard buries it.
That was the first game I ever actually seen Rick Pitino come in the locker room and couldn't say nothing to us.
We went to the locker room, and Coach couldn't say a word.
LSU couldn't get the ball over half court. Now, I think that's one of the games everybody talked about, scoring that many points at halftime. It was almost like a full game score. Everybody thought at halftime that the game was over because we had 80-some points.
Knocked loose and stolen by Henderson, but stolen right back by Turner, who drives and flushes it. And the final score is Kentucky 129 and LSU 97.
They're a great college basketball team. It's the best one I've ever seen in Kentucky. It's the best one I've ever seen here, and it may be one of the best of all time.
The Cat Fever was raging on as the nation continued to take notice of this finely tooled machine that was wreaking devastation throughout the nation. Coach Billy Tubbs and TCU poised little resistance.
Three-point record was 9 for Tony Jones.
Delk would re-enter the game at the 2:34 mark with UK ahead by 47. His three would secure the three-point record. UK would dismantle TCU with a 124-80 victory. Another Patino pupil, Georgia coach Tubby Smith, followed by a home game versus South Carolina with UK legend Dan Issel in attendance. Crushed, shattered, and unrecognizable, that's what the opposition ends up looking like. Vanderbilt took his turn at getting clawed.
The next time Kentucky plays at home will be a week from Sunday when they take on Arkansas, and we guarantee that game will be exciting because Kentucky will be wearing new uniforms, denim from head to toe.
Yeah, I thought they were ugly.
It's nice. It'll be brightly colored, but I don't know. It's a new set. It's like new wallpaper. Tell me about your new wallpaper. Tell me, you're painting the family room. Tell me about the it's just like I'm sure it'll be fine.
The denim uniforms, we really didn't, they were nice for us because it was like jeans to us. Our comment when we was in the locker room, once again, our arrogance, we can beat people in blue jeans. So for us, it really didn't even matter. We were just excited just to play basketball. We ain't really make a big deal out of it at all.
Arkansas and Coach Nolan Richardson were next up.
You look good, man. You look up to goddamn meeting. I'm tired of sticking up.
UK would continue to wreak havoc. Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, and Auburn were next in line to be steamrolled over. NBA symbol himself, Jerry West, was in attendance. Sports Illustrated took notice of the Cats' domination. The Cats reclaimed their #1 spot in the polls after a UMass loss.
Gordon C and I, we wanted to make history. I mean, I think we started, we had a certain swagger about ourselves that we really wanted to be the best. We wanted to also send, Walt and Tony, them guys off, and Mark off in the right way.
Mark was one of the greatest teammates you could ever have. Walter McCarty, he worked so hard, and then he also sacrificed his last year. Tony Delk, great 4-year career. I mean, heart and soul, we looked upon him to lead us. When it came to play, that dude was always going to give his all. Our 3 seniors was going out. We wanted to send them out in style.
Vanderbilt was the unlucky opponent in the way of Kentucky's run at SEC's perfection.
You expect them to trip up at least somewhere during the regular season. But if there was one team that was going to go undefeated in the SEC as far as Kentucky basketball is concerned, that was the team, because all of the components were there as far as talent. The coaching, again, was there. The fan support obviously was there. Everything just fell in place.
It was a joy to watch. It's kind of like a snowball effect. It started out kind of slow, and then it just going downhill, gathered more snow, and that snowball got bigger and bigger and went all the way through the season, which is really unheard of.
There were 5 minutes left, 3 minutes left in the game. We were sitting on the bench, and Walter McCarty grabs a broom from behind the bench, starts walking down, sweeping the floor. Of course, Coach wasn't really happy about that.
Coach got on him a little bit about it, but once you realize the magnitude of what you just accomplished in probably one of the toughest basketball conferences in America, it sunk in and really felt good.
All he was doing was just, trying to rub it in a little bit.
They went through the league undefeated. It's very difficult because, you have to play these people twice. And we almost did it twice. We lost once at Vandy, and then we lost again at Florida. It's difficult to get on those planes and go to those godforsaken places in the SEC and try to play. And everybody hates you in the SEC. So for them to go 16-0, I thought was just phenomenal.
That team was so legendary and gained such a national reputation for its dominance. I was watching the David Letterman show one night, and he worked the Kentucky Wildcats into his opening monologue, and the fans in particular. He said, hey, have you heard about what goes on in Rep Arena? The fans freak out if the other team touches the ball. They touch the ball! They let them touch the ball! And he was talking about how crazy we were. But that's really what that season was like.
Running out for pregame warm-ups, the Cats were sporting a different look.
You know, we got a little cocky, we cut our heads, you know, everybody was bald head. And
We wanted to show our togetherness again. You know, it was one of those things where we were so bonded as a team. We wanted to show our togetherness, and we knew a couple of people on the team really didn't want to cut their hair bald, so we was like, everybody just go bald head.
And of all people, big head, Antoine yells out, "I'm gonna shave my head. Let's everybody shave their head."
And when he made the suggestion, I thought it was kind of funny because I always thought he had the biggest head and it wouldn't look right.
I got a big head, so I knew if I do it, everybody else would do it.
Sophomore Antoine Walker was on a mission and looked to have a clear path to tournament MVP.
So we sweep the season. We're rolling through the SEC tournament.
They've been on this roll ever since the Massachusetts game. Had won 20-something straight games, 16-0 in the league, won the first 2 in the SEC tournament.
We had won so many games in a row, and no one was coming close to beating us.
We hadn't lost an SEC playoff game at all.
The Mississippi State game was a blessing in disguise.
After seeming to do no wrong in the 2 previous SEC tournament games, Walker was a mere reflection of himself, prompting a sideline verbal dispute with Pitino.
We just didn't get off to a good start. And I can't remember, it was one play that happened, and Coach kind of took me out the game. And we had a little conversation back and forth on the bench, and then he just set me down.
Obviously, he was a big part of what we were doing as a team.
I decided to go without Antoine because I didn't feel he was enough into the team at that point. And we were on such a run, beating teams by such margins, I felt we had to get some humility back into us.
I was real pissed about that.
Antoine was the example that needed to be set at that point.
It was a humbling experience. He was, obviously laying discipline down.
And then once we lost to Mississippi State at the buzzer, I felt the national championship to be very secure in our hands, and because we were redirected as far as our hunger and humility were concerned.
I remember the announcers saying, is this potentially a strategy to remind this particular team how painful it is to lose? And of course, to this day, Coach Pitino says that he never wants to lose a ball game, and it was not intentional. But I thought that those rumors and whispers were pretty interesting, that he might have thought it advantageous to lose one game before a loss was terminal.
I'll never forget walking into the locker room after we got pounded by Mississippi State in the SEC championship game, and every bit of me expected Coach to just rip us to pieces, to just destroy us. Coach came in the locker room and he was as calm as I'd ever seen him. And he said, "Guys, this is not bad. This is good for us. We are okay. This is going to wake us up. It's going to give us a renewed focus. And when we win this NCAA championship, we're going to look back on this game and be grateful that this happened to us."
And after that game, I mean, that was the end of being bald head.
Dallas was destination. The Wildcats began their march against San Jose State.
This great anticipation going into the games, and of course you have these huge turnouts and this pandemonium as you're going through warm-ups in the first couple minutes.
We was trying to make a statement. We was trying to let people know that we was here to stay.
Before scoring 63 points in the second to bury the Spartans 110-72.
A guy came up to me in a San Jose State uniform in a warm-up. So I'm thinking maybe a ball boy, something like this. And he was just like, "Hey, man, I was chasing you down. I was trying to get you, get your autograph." And I was like, kind of odd. I gave it to him or whatever. We go back into the hotel, and then I look, and a guy tells me, "How'd that feel?" And I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "That was their point guard for the team." So I'm just like, "What?" He just asked me for my autograph. He's like, "Yeah, they all looking for y'all."
I mean, we beat them pretty bad. It was humbling for us to see them want autographs, but I mean, we put fear in people.
You never think when you're playing against a college guy that's on the same level as you that he would want your autograph, but it showed that they had a lot of respect for us. And I think when you watch a team like us play and you saw how much fun we had playing our style and just celebrating afterwards, that we didn't rub it in anybody's face. It was all about winning, but we also was about having fun. And Coach allowed us to do that on both ends of the floor.
Former UK great Jamal Mashburn, then a member of the Dallas Mavericks, was on the scene.
I spoke to the team yesterday after they played San Jose State, and I just told them, it's no matter how many games you play in the pros or whoever goes to the pros or whatever you do in life, as far as business, anything else, or whatever field you get into, you will always remember the NCAA tournament, especially if you go to the Final Four, and in their case, win a championship.
Virginia Tech fell next. UK had 9 dunks in the second half alone.
And the Cats seemed to resemble the Harlem Globetrotters. The Sweet 16 was at hand. All-American Keith Van Horn, along with entertaining coach Rick Majerus, awaited.
Playing against Keith, I was excited because I knew that he was, one of the best forwards. They was talking about him, maybe coming out, being one of the top picks in the draft. So I was excited about that opportunity to go against him.
We had that mindset where, this guy, he averages 25, but he's not going to get 25 tonight.
I don't know that people thought that Utah had played the kind of schedule that a Kentucky plays in the regular season. So I wasn't personally that surprised when we handled them.
Kentucky made quick work of Utah, jumping out to a 40-19 lead just 10 minutes into the game. From there, the Cats coasted, scoring more than 100 points for the second time in the tournament.
Too much overall talent, speed, and quickness for Utah. Utah, a nice ball club, nothing wrong. And Majerus is a friend, and, but I thought they had no shot in that game.
We were closer to reaching our goals, and at that time we didn't feel like we wanted anybody to stop us from doing that. So as talented as that Utah team was with Van Horn, we had the mentality of taking them apart.
On our team, you never really could kind of take a one-on-one matchup because we did so many things as a team as far as being in the press, and we really didn't let one guy dominate us.
Wake Forest All-American Tim Duncan didn't seem intimidated at all by the Cats.
You got to put that on your mind. This is a new game. They've been beaten twice. We know they can be beat, and this is our job to go out there and try to do it.
If Kentucky plays like that again tomorrow and we don't attack back, then we have lost control before the game ever starts. It is our intention to attack them as hard as they attack us in our own way.
Challenge right there. Duncan, terrific player. Dave Odom, another terrific coach. They had a nice ball club, Wake Forest. They had similar talent, athleticism. I thought that was a real ball game. But if you could carve Duncan out of the equation at certain times in the ball game, you're going to beat him.
One thing Coach did, he had great strategies for different guys. So I think we made sure we let him see, 2 people every time.
I have vivid pictures in my mind of when Tim Duncan caught the ball and us doubling him, and him not having an inch to move, to where it might have been one of his worst games in college basketball.
Tim Duncan was not the Tim Duncan he'd been all along. He was neutralized.
We made him a passer.
Kentucky continued its 20 points or more margin of victory in the regional finals, this time over Wake Forest. Led by Tony Delk's 25, the Cats combined a lethal offense with a smothering defense to blitz the region's number 2 seed, 83-63.
Thought that we were particularly spectacular tonight. I mean, Wake Forest plays a much slower game, and yes, they did slow the pace a little bit, obviously reflected by the relatively, for us at least, low score at halftime, but we ultimately played it our way, and I think we were truly dominant.
Let me get a piece of the net. Yeah, it ain't over. It ain't over.
Whoever was in our way, we were just going to go through them.
Eric, how's it feel to see all these fans out here tonight?
It's great.
Let's see that net you got there. Let's see your net.
Yeah, I cut the last one down, the first rim. It's only the beginning.
How's it feel to see this welcome homecoming?
It's great. We have so many supportive fans, and it's a great feeling.
Mark, how's it feel to see all these fans out here tonight?
We're not supposed to do anything.
It's the grandest stage in college basketball, and UK had only one thing in mind.
When we got to that last weekend and we realized that UMass and Mississippi State were both in that field, because for us, by beating those two teams, it really could be a perfect season.
If you get a chance to play a team that has beat you early in the year, you got that revenge factor on the mind, and I'm quite sure, you know, the 1996 team was eager for that rematch against UMass.
Bring it, bring it. You know, after the first one, the little guards talk a little smack. We beat them, we can beat them again.
Topic this week has been the UMass guard. Here's the pressure. Kentucky steals it behind the back, down and one.
Now it's payback. We need to get them back for what they did to us earlier. And this is just a perfect form for us to do this.
Get it inside to Camby Sum. There comes a double team. He recognizes, but he can't get rid of it.
Pope ahead. Kentucky, Shepherd.
At that point in time, I felt that Kentucky was on a roll.
And now you get an opportunity to right a wrong, something that you don't get an opportunity to do in college basketball a whole lot. So the whole stage set in my old stomping ground, you know, across the river from New York. It was a great game.
And the Cats jumped out on top. Up shot, they had two players on Camby.
Yeah, we wanted our opportunity to get back at them, but we knew they had a certain confidence against us. We knew they believed they can beat us. We knew they had, you know, the guard play to kind of handle our press. They had, you know, guards that can kind of control our press. So we knew we had a tough challenge in our hands.
Walker, the great passer.
When UMass had beat us, they had spent a considerable amount of time as the #1 ranked team in the country, and I think that ate at all of us every week.
I think in the Final Four, they were more in tune of how they were going to play. They had accepted their roles, so now everybody knew what their job was. I think early on they were trying to figure each other out. When we played them late, they had better schemes to go after Marcus Camby. They trapped and rotated better than they had the first game.
And we just learned from our mistakes from the first time. I think, you know, from the first time early in the season, I think they just saw a different team that they didn't know they was going to see.
This was it. Either we won the national title because we would have beat them, or they were winning the national title because they beat us. We beat Syracuse earlier in the season by 25. So we all knew this was the game.
Revenge. I think that's one thing that was on everybody's minds, that we had a chance to get revenge on the team that gave us an early loss.
But off back to Camby for a three-point try, no good. Rebound by Anthony Epps. He throws it out to McCarty.
I think that was a championship game. No disrespect to Syracuse, but I knew after Kentucky got past UMass, after they had exercised those demons, the championship was just a formality at that point.
Kentucky out-executed UMass when it mattered most. One question remained for Kentucky. Can they win a national championship?
In no way do we underestimate Syracuse. We realize we'll have to play great to beat them, and we intend on playing hard as we possibly can and hopefully come away with a victory.
We could almost taste it as far as winning the national championship.
I think at that time for all of us, emotions were so close to the surface because this was it. Like, we were doing it.
Syracuse entered the game as this year's sort of Cinderella team, led by All-American John Wallace.
I knew we could win it. It's just a matter, you know what I mean? You just try to play it through your head every night. You know, you just want to win it. You can't sleep. You just up and just waiting. And early on in the game, I think it went back and forth for a while. You know what I mean? I know I got me a couple dunks early in the game, got it going. Tony hit a couple threes. We kind of got control of the game. You know, we kept a 5-6 point lead. We never really let them get control of the game. The one thing that we did do is we started letting John Wallace get off. I mean, John Wallace really, you know, he was a big-time All-American. He really was leading it right there early on, carrying them. And that's something that we usually don't let the star get off. The run came in, gave us a couple big buckets. I think Derek got a couple huge steals. So we got some easy break opportunities where they had to really work hard for theirs. And with them playing zone all game, that was huge for us to try to get some baskets in transition and things like that.
Syracuse second. There's that business of going over the top, but very dangerous with the quickness.
Anderson picked it off, and he gets it right back from Epps.
They ought to get him back to stroking at three. Here's Mercer again. He's everywhere.
Mercer from the corner, three-pointer, 20 points for the freshman.
I remember the last few minutes of the game. You know, we had a lead. We were pretty safe. Just had to make a couple plays to ensure that we were going to win.
I don't remember who swung the ball to me, but I remember as it got in my hands is that I think they was within maybe 2 or 3 points, and the shot I took was one of my rainbow three-pointers, and as I shot it, the guy fouled me. I fell down.
Hope brings it out. Dell on track, maybe 4.
And who committed the foul? Is that Bergen? That's his third?
And my man D.A., he was the one that was punching me and helping me up off the floor. But it was definitely a turning point in the game. And just to be in a position like that and have teammates that look for me, it said a lot about, you know, my guys and how we all played together.
But that put the dagger into Syracuse and their momentum in that play really, signified, okay, man, now, okay, let's go claim it. TD just hit the three, he got fouled. And then if you look at the bench, I mean, even the coaches was up. Everybody was up because it was just that moment.
How sweet it is.
I remember the buzzer sounded. I remember hugging guys. I remember stumbling over to the sideline, and Bill Rafferty was right there. Bill Rafferty I listened to since I was a little kid, do games, would imitate him saying man to man at the beginning of games. And remember just somehow ended up shaking his hand, and remember cutting down the net and standing together with the team.
I was just in shock. Honestly, I was in shock. I just kind of was in shock and just kind of tried to take it all in. And so I kind of missed the whole celebration with the team right there in the middle of the floor because I was just trying to take it in.
I think I was just shocked. I can remember, hugging my teammates, Walter, Derek, all the guys, and I was just really you start preparing yourself day one, and to finally get to the championship game and win it, I think it was just like you was in disbelief. But it took a couple days for it to settle in.
To present the national championship trophy to Coach Rick Pitino and the University of Kentucky Wildcats.
Nobody in the history of basketball has had 11, 12 players this good to play together. They're a very well-coached team, deservedly the national champion.
Unbelievable. This sums it up, okay? It's not nothing to talk about. It's just an unbelievable feeling.
I got exactly what I was looking for when I came to Kentucky as a freshman, is to hopefully win a national championship, and we accomplished that.
The first thing you think about is just running on the floor and just hugging and jumping on whoever you see first. It could be a fan, it could be your teammate. Would have jumped on Coach P if I saw him.
Coach Pitino at the end of the game kind of grabbed his coaching staff and as they kind of hugged each other, because there were all these expectations on this team, and they delivered. You're proud that you're on those teams. And you look back in the 90s and what the Kentucky basketball program did with resurrecting its program in the early 90s to winning 2 national championships, going to 3 straight Final Fours, 3 straight final games at the end of that decade. And you're just very proud that you were a part of those teams.
As it happens, you have that happiness for it, but you really don't realize it. And then you don't really get to realize it until maybe a few days afterwards. And then sometimes you don't understand the impact until maybe a few years later. But that moment and that time was just, man, we put in all this work, man, and it paid off. And it paid off. Let's go celebrate.
Whose bus is this?
Right after the game, we got on the bus before we head back to the hotel. And Walt was on that scene. He had the championship trophy. All the guys was on there screaming and shouting. And then Coach P came back, and we started giving him the business because he said he'd get a tattoo if we win it all. So everybody reminded him, hey man, you get this tattoo, and you're gonna have it where you want it. We don't care, just get it.
Maybe my most vivid memory is getting on the bus. I don't know, it must have been 3 o'clock in the morning before we finally got out there. Getting on the bus and driving back to the hotel. And it was probably 40 feet from where the hotel let us out to get to the elevator to go to our rooms. And it must have taken me 45 minutes because you couldn't move. I mean, you're just stuck. There's so many bodies. We could not move. I remember feeling like I was going to pass out.
The plane comes back and there's 40,000 people waiting at the airport to follow them back to Rupp Arena.
guys have a heck of a greeting party out here to meet you. Congratulations.
As the plane got close and you about to land, you could see gobs of people lined up around the side and stuff.
You'd have thought we was rock stars or something. I mean, I've never seen that many people at the airport in my life just screaming and cheering.
Getting off the plane and having all those people at the airport, you know, waiting for us to come back, and then Coach P telling us to go out there and sign autographs, you know, to show our appreciation for them supporting us throughout the year.
There was not one point going from the airport to Rupp Arena where you didn't see fans holding up signs and waving us all the way there.
Cars lining the entire way, people standing up on the top of their car with a sign, and people crying.
Riding through Lexington, and then you had cars following you, people blowing their horn. The bus driver might even been blowing his horn.
All the fans going down the roads with their signs up saying, you know, congratulations, national champs.
And driving right into Rupp Arena. I didn't know we were driving. We drove right into Rupp Arena, and of course, 20,000 people in there.
They rode the bus into Rupp, which you thinking, you know, you rode right into the middle of the floor.
And then, once you got there, there's an additional 24,000 people waiting for you.
That cheer is for Bill Knightley, the equipment manager, and there's the championship trophy. He can let go of the trophy now, Doug. It's finally home.
And after watching this basketball team, I realized not only did they learn from their mistakes and grew as a basketball team, but every time they did learn from those mistakes, they became untouchable to beat. So we call this team the Untouchables. I can't tell you how much fun we've had. People talk about pressure. We said, yes, it's there, but we're going to laugh about it, we're going to have fun with it, and we're really going to enjoy the pressure because we consider it great pressure. We've had a ball.
After that, everywhere you go, no matter if you were the last guy on the bench or the first, you know, the leading scorer, everybody's like, oh, you're the greatest, and you're being acknowledged by everybody. It was crazy, and to be honest with you, to this day, people still come up to you and be like, I remember your shot from this game, or I remember the 96 championship game and that team, how great it was. They still say it to this day.
To go from the bottom to reach the top, I probably was as proud as any fan and any former player to see that team reach that goal.
We're labeled as winners. I think when you win, you get a lot of attention. Everything that comes with winning. And being at the University of Kentucky and winning a championship it don't get any better than that. You know, we'll be forever remembered, you know, as Untouchables.
I'll never forget going to the locker room after the game, to see M. Newton stand up and saying, guys, this moment is so sweet, but I'm going to promise you one thing, that this moment, every day from here on out, for the rest of your life, is going to get sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, and that's really the truth.
7 first-round draft picks going 16-0 in the SEC, possessing a 27-game winning streak and a 24.3 per-game margin of victory. There's little debate where this team ranks in history.
The fun of it is that we get to argue that. Statistically, there are some things that set our team apart from any other team, but we were an unbelievably dominant team. I think we got to be in the discussion. I think we have to be in the discussion. Now, if Kareem is sitting right here, you know, we would have a good discussion.
And for anybody to place the 95, 96 Kentucky team behind them, that's an honor. I'm telling you, that's an honor, because UCLA was awfully, awfully good. But there was some real talent on that ball club. Okay, real talent. Now, back when Jabbar played, nobody had that access to that kind of talent. It was a different world. That's why you can't compare eras. But as far as just talent, yeah, I think they belong there. I don't have any problem with that.
Kentucky, in that 1996 team, I think that if you put them in the same breath as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that's elite company, and I feel pretty good about that.
I think there's other teams that maybe had a better starting five, but then I think what we would have did, which we did to a lot of teams, is if we're playing them head to head, we're going to wear down that starting five, and they can't go to their bench and be able to compete with our bench.
I definitely feel like we was the best I've seen play. I think with 9 guys coming off a championship team, especially in this era, it's going to be almost impossible.
Was this the greatest team ever in college basketball? Yes. I'm a little hesitant not having seen some of the teams of the past, but as far as teams that I've eyewitnessed, yes.
To answer that, I think I would have had to have seen 50 years of college basketball, and I've seen 33 years, probably 20 some odd years if you count when I really appreciated what college basketball is about. I don't know. That's a question for someone that's got a lot more experience in it than I do. I know it was one of the best, and it's as simple as that.
It's been a long time since '96, and everywhere I go, I hear comments that it was the best team ever, from young to old to people who know a lot about basketball to people who know very little. And everybody always says it's the best basketball team I've ever seen.
I rank us right up there at the top. Whether we're number one or not, that's not for me to decide. If I had to pick, I'd say, yeah, we're number one.
I definitely feel like we're the best team, ever in college.
That's the best team that the University of Kentucky ever had, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the best team in college basketball. They were off the charts with quickness. They had the height. They had the defense, had a great defense, quickness. There's no comparison in my mind with any other team that's played.
And in my opinion, I say we are the greatest basketball team ever. And you can go down the line and look through all the former teams that played even in the past. But this particular team had a lot of pros on the team. I want to say 8 or 9 pros that came from this national championship team. And not only that, the year after, we made it back to the championship game and won in the '98 again from some of those same guys that played on that team. So I think so. I would say it is.
Well, you have to say they're one of the best teams ever, and I don't know of all the other teams. I mean, there's some teams that UCLA has probably had, or North Carolina probably had, that were like ridiculous. Back then, though, I want you to know, kids didn't leave early. So when you got a group of guys at UCLA, they stayed the whole time. Or you got a group of guys at North Carolina at that time, they stayed the whole time. It doesn't happen now. So when you get good players, and even back in '96, they leave.
The '96 team I would put up against any team in the history of basketball, just because of the talent level, the style of play that we had, our ability to take one great player from the other team and just completely shut them down. And then just, we were relentless. We were able to come in with waves of players off the bench and give our starters rest, and then they would come right back with another wave. And I would love to play any team in the history of college basketball with our '96 championship team.
I can tell you that we will be considered one of them, because when you think about it, I wasn't around to see the UCLA great teams. I saw a few of the Duke teams, obviously, when I was younger, and even watching teams nowadays. One thing I would probably say is we were probably the deepest team in college basketball history, as far as being able to go from 1 to 11, maybe 12, and being able to not lose stride when you're putting those guys in the game. Were we the best? I don't know, but we will definitely be considered as one of them.
I'll say it's the greatest, team ever, and I'm not just being biased because I went to the school, but there's, many reasons to back it up. When you talk about 10 guys going to the NBA off one college team, when you talk about, the second 5 can start on any other teams in college basketball, it was just total dominance. When you have that type of swag on the court and you step on and those guys have your back, it makes things much easier for you.
Oh, without a doubt, one of the greatest college basketball teams ever, unquestionably so. Certainly in my lifetime, the greatest team.
I think we're the greatest team of all time. I think you judge that on how many pros you produced off that team. Obviously, I think you got to look at how you won. I mean, we dominated. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest thing. We dominated teams night in, night out. And I think if you look at and the style of play that we played at, we were more exciting, we dominated, and we ended up winning it all. So I think, you add those combinations together, and then on top of that, you look at everybody's careers after that. It wasn't like a team you just put together. These were all guys that developed to be pros. You got 10, 11 pros off that team. So I think that's what makes us that. And also the coach, his success that he's had throughout. So you add those combinations together, I think we are the best team ever assembled.
I know this basketball team has to go down as one of the greatest teams of all time. I know one thing. I've watched some great teams. I would not, if I was coaching any of those other great teams, I would not want to play against Kentucky's defense at any point in time, because without a lot of preparation time, to go against that relentless pressure, to go against whether it's a missed shot, a made shot, you got to turn around and guard him in transition, then you've got to turn around and go the other way. It's a very difficult team. Then when you substitute, because you're fatigued, here comes 3 to 4 more NBA players. So it's a very difficult thing, especially when you have that many great basketball players who are willing to sacrifice their ego just for the common good of the basketball team. So you had it attitude-wise, you had the talent, you had everybody totally focused in on it to win a championship. So I would say, if I had to look at the great teams, I would not mind playing against a great UCLA team. You could prepare for certain things they do, but they're still great Michigan State team, a great North Carolina team. I would not want to play against that Kentucky basketball team. That's a team that could have played 7 different ways. They could have been a zone team in one. They could have been a pressing team in one. They could have been a post-up team in one. They could have been a 3-point shooting team in one. You could play, they had too many pros. I said 11, now I'm hearing 9. Well, when you talk about untouchable, we were a relentless basketball team, not only in practice but in games. When we left that locker room, it was a attitude of taking apart whoever you were playing. And when we substituted, sometimes we gained and sometimes it would just be the same. So I never been a coach before that could substitute and not lose anything. And that team was untouchable. Nobody was going to beat that basketball team because they were all so focused on one thing and only one thing, and that was winning a championship.